Hi, I'm Naveen Day. This is Forum Daily West. Here are some of the top stories we have lined up for you tonight.
Contract talks between the Alberta government and teachers break down, and that has parents nervous about next week's return to school. After an Ontario man is charged with assaulting an intruder during a break-in, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is demanding changes to the criminal code. A young hockey player hopes this will be the year he finally makes it onto the Lethbridge Hurricanes roster.
Thanks so much for joining us. With a new school year set to begin next week, parents are not happy to hear this news. The group representing Alberta's teachers has broken off mediated contract talks with the province. In June, the Alberta Teachers Association had voted in favor of strike action with the province. That followed teachers' rejection of a mediator's proposal that would give teachers at least 12% in wage increases over 4 years. Education Minister Dimitrios Nicolaides said the province also made an offer to the ATA to hire 1,000 more teachers every year for the next 3 years at an estimated cost of over $750 million over the term. An offer, he says, provides the exact request the union made in June of 2025. Nicolaides says the ATA is playing politics at the expense of children's education.
We were informed that the Alberta Teachers Association bargaining team would make a counter-proposal to us on August 27th. However, no such counter-proposal was received. Rather, on August 27th, the bargaining team made it clear that the main interest was increasing wages for teachers and opposing the government. The ATA's focus on wages and not classroom complexity is not what they have been saying in public. For months, they have been talking openly about the need to increase funding, hire more teachers, improve working conditions, and provide more supports for teachers. However, we have now learned that wages are their main concern. The government of Alberta will prioritize children's learning, and we are now exposing the union's strategy and tactics. We cannot sit idly by while the public, parents, students, and others are manipulated into supporting a union that has shown its primary interest is, in fact, diverting supports away from the classroom.
In response to Nicolaides' accusation that the union is playing politics, Alberta Teachers Association President Jason Schilling says if they're playing anything, it's catch-up.
The 3,000 teachers added over the next 3 years is a drop in the bucket of what we needed to see. We're not politicizing everything or anything. We are showing the reality of what is happening within our schools in Alberta. The fact that my colleagues are seeing the largest classes that they've ever seen. The fact that they can't spend more than maybe up to 2 minutes per student in a classroom. The fact that they don't have the resources to meet the needs of students within our schools, including those with special needs. The fact that they don't have the very things that they need to do their jobs, all while watching their salaries fall further and further behind, is not politicizing. It's telling the truth about what we see in our schools.
Schilling says the ATA wants to see changes to the pay grid so teachers get raises earlier in their tenure. Teachers voted overwhelmingly in favor of strike action back in May, but Schilling says right now the ATA is not planning to issue 72-hour strike notice. So the plan right now is for classes to be in session on Tuesday morning. As for local reaction, school boards are keeping tight-lipped. The West Wind School Division, which covers Cardston County and Warner County number 5, gave a firm no comment when asked for a reaction to a potential teacher strike. There has also been no comment from the Holy Spirit Catholic Schools or the Palliser School Division. The Lethbridge School Division, in an email to media, said all schools in Lethbridge School Division are preparing to be open and operating for the start of the school year on Tuesday, September the 2nd. At this time, we are not aware of any action that will impact our operations, and we are excited to welcome students back. If this changes, we will inform you as soon as possible. A new poll suggests an overwhelmingly majority of Canadians think government should regulate artificial intelligence. The Leger poll found 85% of respondents believe governments should regulate AI tools to ensure their use is ethical and safe.
It's very clear Canadians want government involved, despite the fact that 6 in 10 feel that AI companies should bear responsibility when things go wrong. They still want government involved. And so somebody's got to kind of be accountable and control all of that, because it's clear that this isn't going anywhere. it's not really surprising then that half of Canadians are worried about a decline in their cognitive abilities. And what really stood out for me there was that the concern was even higher among young adults. So young adults tend to be less worried.
As the new school year begins on September the 2nd, the Lethbridge Police Service is stepping up enforcement to ensure traffic safety in school and playground zones. With more children walking and biking, drivers are urged to slow down, follow the rules of the road, and stay alert. Sergeant Tony Ramotowski from the LPS Traffic Response Unit shares safety tips for drivers, cyclists, and students.
With harmonized playground zones effective 7:30 till 9 p.m. all year round, drivers should already be accommodated and used to being slowing down in the 30-kilometer areas. In addition to speeding, police will be on the lookout for other infractions, such as driving, failed to yield to pedestrians, parking violations, U-turns, and pedestrian issues. Motorists are reminded not to double park across any roadway, and parents are encouraged to set a good example for their children by crossing the street at corners or in marked crosswalks. It's also important to watch out for school buses as the children get on or get off. Kids are excited now, so they might run out into traffic and potentially get hit by another vehicle. Just some safety tips for students. As exiting your vehicle, please watch out for other vehicles that may be passing by. Entering the roadway, always proceed slowly, checking both ways for vehicles. Never run onto the road. Make sure eye contact with drivers as you cross the street. Always wear visible clothing. Never have earbuds or any kind of iPad or be on your cell phone as you're crossing the street.
The sergeant advises cyclists not to ride on the sidewalk unless it is a designated multi-use pathway. Residents of Minneapolis, Minnesota are still coming to grips with a shooting this week that left 2 children dead. The children were killed when a gunman opened fire while the students were celebrating Mass at a church next to their school. The families of the victims are wrestling with their grief.
Fletcher loved his family, friends, fishing, cooking, and any sport that he was allowed to play. While the hole in our hearts and lives will never be filled, I hope that in time our family can find healing. Please remember Fletcher for the person he was and not the act that ended his life. Give your kids an extra hug and kiss today. We love you, Fletcher. You'll always be with us.
Fletcher and 10-year-old Harper Moisky were killed, and more than a dozen of their schoolmates were injured when a shooter fired through the church's windows. Police say the shooter was a former student at the school and used to be a member of the church. It's a story that has left a lot of Canadians shaking their heads. Earlier this month, a man in Lindsay, Ontario was charged with assault after defending himself against an intruder who broke into his apartment. The intruder was armed with a crossbow. Now, some residents and business owners are coming forward to show support for Jeremy David McDonald.
My neighbor upstairs, he was sleeping. He woke up to an intruder in his home, and long story short, the intruder got into an altercation with him, and the intruder was hurt in the process, and it resulted in JD being charged criminally. He's been my friend for years. He lives above my business. He's a good guy. Goes to work every day. Like your average, person. Minds his business. He's a good guy. Politicians make laws. The police uphold the law, right? And they're bound to a certain degree by the circumstances of this situation. And unfortunately, they had to lay those charges on my friend. However, right, maybe that this is a sign that, the laws in our country might need to change a little bit. You can't really determine the amount of force you're using to a certain degree if you don't know the force that's attended upon yourself, right? So, to each person that would be different, right, and how they would interpret it. So if you woke up in your home and you thought that, there was a burglar in your house, let's say you didn't think that person was going to harm you. You might react different to somebody that automatically thought that person was going to hurt them.
The alleged intruder, 41-year-old Michael Kyle Breen, was airlifted to hospital with life-threatening injuries. He has been charged with break and enter, possession of a weapon for a dangerous purpose, and failing to comply with a probation order. The Quebec government says it is planning to ban prayer in public places as part of a move to strengthen secularism in the province. The announcement makes good on a suggestion put forward in December by Premier François Legault, who said he didn't want to see people praying in public parks or on streets. On Thursday, Secularism Minister Jean-François Roberge confirmed he will table legislation this fall to outlaw the practice. Roberge did not say whether the government would invoke the notwithstanding clause, which would allow the bill to override certain sections of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Meanwhile, the federal Conservative leader wants the government to amend the criminal code to say that the use of force is reasonable to defend your home if someone breaks into it. Pierre Poilievre made the announcement today in Brampton, Ontario.
We're calling on the government to introduce and immediately pass the Stand on Guard law, failing which one of our party's MPs will put forward such a bill. It will amend Section 34.2 of the Criminal Code, which right now says that you can defend yourself based on 9 very complicated and vague conditions. Now look, if you're defending your house, you don't have time to think through 9 different conditions. You have one condition: to protect yourself and your kids. And it is wrong for the law, for the police, and for judges to apply a complicated, indecipherable legal doctrine against you when you were only doing what is right. Our amendment instead will change Section 34.2 of the Criminal Code to say that the use of force, including lethal force, is presumed reasonable against an individual who unlawfully enters a house and poses a threat to the safety of anyone inside.
Poilievre says the change will bring Canada in line with Ireland, Spain, the UK, and a few U.S. states that have similar laws already in place. Prime Minister Mark Carney has announced that Calgary will be the headquarters of a new major projects office. In a statement, Carney says the MPO will serve as a single point of contact to get nation-building projects built faster by streamlining and accelerating regulatory approval and by helping to structure and coordinate financing of these projects. Carney says the MPO will help to identify projects that are in Canada's national interest and will help fast-track them by creating a single set of conditions. The goal is to have a maximum approval timeline of 2 years. Carney has also named Dawn Farrell as CEO of the Major Projects Office. Farrell is former chair of the board of directors of Trans Mountain Corporation. She also served as an executive vice president for BC Hydro before becoming Trans Mountain's CEO in 2022. The Major Projects Office will also have an Indigenous Advisory Council. The membership of the council will be confirmed next month. The Lethbridge Hurricanes have begun training camp this week ahead of the 2025-26 season, with an exception that the team's main roster will look very different from last year. A total of 51 players are attending rookie camp that opened on Thursday, plus an additional 33 players from the main camp. Many notable veterans of the team have since aged out of the league and have gone to sign pro contracts elsewhere, including Braden Edwards, Votek Port, and Leo Brayard. Outgoing head coach Bill Peters has been replaced by Matt Anholt, who says he's excited being back on the ice and meeting the new selection of players.
Well, I think it's obviously a new group. I'd say about 80% of our team is going to be new players this year, so I think it's a good challenge for our returning players like Logan Wormwald and Shane Smith and Luke Cousins, Carson Adair, Cohen Cleaver to step into leadership roles that maybe they aren't used to, and they're going to lead the way in a positive way, and guys are going to follow for sure. Obviously, our team has a lot of new faces this year, so it's been nice to talk with some of those kids as they've been coming over the last few days, and nice to see those guys on the ice and obviously adding a couple new staff members this year as well, and Matt Weninger and Torrin White. So just exciting, lots of smiling faces for sure.
Super excited, coming off a good year. The energy's high. Everyone's excited to come back. Bit of a different look, like different players this year, but yeah, couldn't be more excited to be back. It's definitely a bit different. I think last year we had a lot of returning guys. Everyone was kind of comfortable, familiar with the system and everything, but it's been good. It's been fun to meet all the new guys, all the new faces around the rink, and on the ice, it's good to see, different skills, different everything that people are bringing to the table.
About 5 players attending training camp this year are from Lethbridge area, including Cade Duell from Tabor. The 19-year-old says after coming to camp 2 years ago, his goal now is to obtain a spot on the main roster.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet to come. Local team, I grew up watching the Hurricanes, so to come in and have a chance to play for them is pretty neat. Came to camp a couple years ago, met some of the younger guys back then, like Wormwald and all that, but they've been really good to welcome me back and bring me in and show me around. A little bit smaller guy, so not too physical, but try and do what I can out there. The mood's pretty exciting. There's a lot of young guys coming in trying to make it to the league, so it's pretty neat to see them come in with big goals and see what they can do.
The Canes will open the preseason with back-to-back games at the visitlethbridge.com arena this coming Tuesday and Wednesday at 7 p.m. each night.